Welcome to the Pool Chasers podcast. I'm your host, Greg Villafania, joined by my co-host, Justin Bowie.
How you doing?
And today we've got Buzz Ghiz in the studio. How you doing, Buzz?
I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
So if we don't have any other guests after this, I'll be just fine with that because you're the one that wanted on since the very beginning. So appreciate you taking the time to be with us today.
Well, I just appreciate you having me. It's really exciting to be here and be able to talk with you guys and talk a little about the industry and outside the industry as well. So thank you for having me.
Yeah.
We had to make Greg take off his Buzz #1 fan shirt before. We didn't want to freak you out. So.
Well, I'm a
It's
big
embarrassing.
fan.
Take it off.
Actually, I'm a big fan of Justin's, to be honest with you. I've always admired him and what he's done in his business, and growing his business has just been exciting to watch, to be honest with you. He's quite the young entrepreneur. So good for you, Justin. Absolutely.
Very much appreciated.
There's a lot of energy in this room right now. If anybody knew we were all in here, man, there could be a line out the door. So you're retired. I mean, how's life treating you these days?
Yeah, retirement's different. I will tell you that. I'm, kind of dabbling and doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and helping my boys in their business and getting them started, and doing a little bit of consulting. But retirement is different. You've got to be prepared for it because I'm a big believer that you got to have a kind of a purpose in life, and when you wake up in the morning and jump out of bed, you got to be laser focused on something. But I'm enjoying it, enjoying spending time with my wife and doing some traveling, and just got back from, about 5 months ago, got back from Jerusalem, which had a wonderful, absolutely unbelievable time. So I'm enjoying that part of it, but I'm looking for my next. I'm looking for the next.
Do you ever get around other retired people and you just start sharing stories and they're like, it doesn't sound like you're living the retired life. It sounds like you're still working. Because I can't imagine you're doing the same stuff, like go golfing every day and that type of stuff.
No, retired people usually just talk about the ails that they have. My knee hurts, and my hip hurts. So it's not a lot. I don't get engaged with a lot of that stuff. But it's been good. Life's good. No complaints at all. Feel very fortunate and blessed that so far in my life, the life's taken me and the journey it's taken me on. So I'm just looking for my next, because I'm a guy that has a lot of gas in the tank and energy left, and I want to be able to help embark that onto other young people and their up and coming journeys in life and entrepreneurial side. So that's what I'm doing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know who doesn't know Buzz Ghiz or the Ghiz family or Paddock Pools or Paramount, but maybe you could just share with us, kind of a highlight of, what you've done in the pool business.
Well, let me just kind of back up a little bit and started in 1958 with my dad, really, who is my greatest mentor. I started Paddock in 1958. He bought the franchise from Paddock of California, actually, for the Arizona and the Nevada regions, and started in 1958 in an office probably about this size, over at Town and Country, 24th Street in Camelback, and had a vision of, bringing quality and a different vision to building swimming pools. And then he branched out basically into retail, because he wanted to be a full service. He didn't want to just be able to build a pool. He wanted to be able to build a pool and then come into the retail store and get your furniture, get your chemicals, just kind of have a customer for a lifetime. And that's kind of the environment that I grew up in. And I actually started I was born in 1953. So I'm giving my age away right now, but born in 1953, and actually started doing with my dad when I was, say, 10, 11, 12 years old. Got into the business. So I've been doing it a long time, and an industry that I love and enjoyed, and that's kind of how it all started. My dad was a Marine, first of all, so things were, just to give you an idea of the structure of the house, is if he said be home at midnight, it better be 11:59, not 12:01. So, but yeah, we would do he would had us start. And actually with me, we had a succession plan, because I always knew what I wanted to do. I just knew very young that this is what I wanted, and I was driven, and I was laser focused on the pool business, and wanted to follow in my dad's footsteps. But he put a succession plan together, and you're right, we had to bag chemicals, and actually at one time, which I would never have anybody do. In fact, when God rest his soul, when he passed away in 1988, I shut it down. But Paddock was packing their own chemicals at one time, buying big, chlorine in big drums, putting it in a machine and packing it in 5-pounders and 10-pounders. And I had to do that all summer when it was 110 degrees out, and you had to have a suit on, a plastic suit on and wrapped up. And but he had us do it all, starting from the bottom. It was not an easy road, but it kept me driven, to be honest with you. All of my brothers driven, to be honest with you. All of us were in the same boat, that he put us through a path of starting from the bottom. And if you want it, and I think I know what his motive was. That his motive was that you want to build respect amongst your team members, and just to have someone come in and take over a business and not have gone through the levels of degree that all of my brothers and I did, I think wouldn't have fared well. And that's what I think was so good for me anyway, when he did pass away, that I had gone through all this. So I was knowledgeable enough to be dangerous about everything, and I did most of everything that I would ask anybody else to do. And that's what drove my work ethic, to be honest with you.
You said he was in the Marines. Was he in Korea, World War II?
World War II, yep. Yeah, not on the Korean side, yep. Yep.
Very nice. So if he started the company in 58, you said you were born in 63. So
No, 53, pardon me.
53.
53,
Okay.
yeah.
So basically, you're born, you're living life, you know the pool industry, that's in your house, that's what's going on. Did you feel compelled to be in the pool industry? Was there anything else you wanted to do? How did that look for you?
Well, I tell people I think I got chlorine in my blood, to be honest with you. When I bleed, it smells like chlorine. I've been in it so long. No. I mean, I don't think I was compelled to do anything else. I really loved that, and I wanted to follow in my footsteps. He was, as I said earlier, he was like probably a lot of young men. Their fathers was a great mentor of mine, and kind of taught me the principles that I live by today in my business, to be honest with you. But no, I really wasn't compelled. I started doing a lot of little entrepreneurial stuff when I was young, outside the pool side. When I had a car detail business. I would gather up the neighborhood kids and we'd go detail. I had a carpet cleaning business that I started when I was young. So, but I always kind of knew very early on that I wanted to get in the pool business, stay in the pool business, and follow my dad's footsteps.
What did you do when you first started? So I know you were bagging chemicals and all that stuff, but were you on the sales side, construction side? Like, how did you get your come up in the Paddock organization?
Well, again, I started out in the warehouse and bagging chemicals, and then I went into the retail side. And I think that was the greatest lesson that I think I learned. My customer skills, customer-centric skills, was working in the retail store, having to deal with Mr. and Mrs. Jones when they came in at a very young age. So I knew what was important, how laser focused you had to be on being customer-centric and taking care of the customer. So I worked through the retail store, then I went into the construction side, and I was on gunite crews. I was on plumbing crews, very bad at all that stuff, by the way. The crews couldn't wait for me to get off. But I did it all, steel crews, digging crews, did it all. And then I went into pool sales, and I had some pretty good success there. I had to work harder than most everyone else because, they think, well, the boss's kid, you really have a target on your back. People think it's easy, but it's really not easy. It's got that target that they're always kind of laser focused on. So I had to work that extra hard, and I had a lot of success in the pool sales side, and then I moved into sales management. And then my dad did get sick in 1979, about the year I got married. He had to run off to get open heart surgery, and pretty much threw me the keys and said, I have to go. If I don't go, went up to Stanford, which was one of the premier places for that, but for a bypass, pardon me, not a transplant, but a bypass. Threw me the keys and said, it's yours. I have to go. And that's when it all started right then. And I had to grow up real fast.
Wow.
Real fast. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think it is pools, building pools, or bagging chemicals, or is there something else about business that you really enjoy? Like, do you like processes, being organized, the branding, the customer service? Because I imagine you starting so young, you could have done well in anything that, had, those things, which is pretty much all business. Like, what is it about, business that you like so much, or being an entrepreneur?
I like the leadership side. There's, being a leader is, it's not like the old days of being a boss, what's my way, the highway. I like leading, and I like being able to, pull people with you. I think a leader that pushes, doesn't get very far, but a leader that pulls people and brings them along with them in an empathetic way and a good listener. I like that side of it. I enjoy the customer touch. I think that's important. I like branding. I think let me back up. I like the culture side of it, really, to be honest with you. I think every company has to have a culture. If you don't have a culture, or what I call a personality business, it's hard to follow you at that point. So building a culture, building leadership in a company is what I really, really like to do. Bagging chemicals, I can pass on. That part I like.
But all those things take time, you know. We always hear about culture, and I think people make an attempt at it. And since they don't see results, maybe within the first year, they're like, you know what, let's just go back to the way things were. But it takes a long time because the people and customers want to see that you're consistent on your branding and how you treat employees, and employees are comfortable with what you do. I mean, Mike was just on a few episodes ago, and I feel like it was a Paddock episode where he was just talking about, you know, how much he loved it there, and how the leadership was just great, and he learned so much there. So I have to imagine that it takes time in building like a quality culture that's going to stand the test of time.
I think so. It came natural to me, and I guess sometimes they say you're born with things, but I think I was just born with that thing of leadership and building a culture. And I think once people see that and feel that, and we had it at Paddock. I mean, some people still say at Paddock that was one of the best places they worked for ever at one time, just because it was even though at one time we had 510 or 15 people, in the business, but it was always a family feel is what we made it feel like, and genuinely too, by the way, sincerely. I don't think you can only fake it for so long. And I think we had that feeling, and that all started really with my dad and the principles of business, and that he taught us is treating everyone the same, no matter who in the business, no matter from the top to the bottom, everyone should be treated exactly the same. And that's just the way we did. And that's the way I've done in all of my businesses. And so it somewhat came natural. And I don't think it takes as long as a leader of the company, and it starts with leadership, by the way. People will follow the leader. And if the leader sets those principles and goals and the right principles in a business, most people will follow that. And so, yeah, it takes time, but not as long as you think, as long as you start out that way from the beginning.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Backing up to the Paddock days, it sounds like your father and you were great innovators. You're talking about bagging your own chemicals. I didn't even know that was a thing that any pool companies did. You guys did the retail store, and then eventually Paramount was born. Can you talk a little bit about what spawned the birth of Paramount and what that looked like for you?
Yeah, actually in 1964, my dad started a company called Paramount Leisure Industries, and it was really there for the innovation side. At one time, he was building his own pumps, brass pumps, to be honest with you.
Wow.
And innovated stuff like the pool tender, which was a little cleaner for above ground pools, mostly, even though it went into some in-ground pools. Also a place for, inventory. He'd bring things into Paramount. Paramount then would sell it to Paddock. And I think a lot of that was to do with taxes and movements of business. But that's how it was all started. But it started with the innovation side. And really what took Paramount to the next level was a gentleman by the name of John Gettle. John Gettle, if you notice our patents, and at Paramount, we had 90-some patents at one time when we ended up selling the business in 2018 to Hayward. But John Gettle stamps on probably 90% of those patents. So he was really critical into the growth of what Paramount came to be. And he started with Paddock when he was, with Paramount when he was 25 years old.
Wow.
So way back right at the beginning. But he was instrumental in the innovation of our products.
He was a family friend, or how did he?
No, actually, he comes from the Gettle air conditioning family.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's where his DNA is from. But he just came and interviewed with my dad when he was 25, and before he walked out their door, my dad had a great sense of hiring people. It was amazing how he could, pick the right person to be on the team. And he at 25, he picked him and said, "You're on board," and rest is history.
So
Yeah.
when did the in-floor come into play then? If they started with brass pumps and all those things, when did that hit?
Well, believe it or not, I think the first in-floor was put in 1968 or 69 on my dad's side. Now remember that the in-floor goes back, from if anybody familiar with the Turbo Clean,
Sure.
that's the one that kind of
Stubs.
Stubbies.
Stubbies.
Yeah, that really might have been the first, so-called in-floor. I don't know.
That
It
was an
wasn't-
A&A product
It was
or Quick Clean or
yeah, I don't think it was A&A at the beginning. I can't remember who had. I think they ended up taking it on or something. But they were the big movers of that. But that was kind of the beginning of it. But the actual in-floor flush side of it, where the heads pop up, the first one we installed, I remember, like in 1967 or 68, way back in the day. So it kind of that's when the birth of it started.
so that, and I think didn't the turbos not rotate?
No, they did not rotate.
They were like a floor return, basically.
Basically a floor return.
Okay.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then
A little different because they had not, little ratchets all the way around there were, would push the dirt toward the drain, but they did not rotate. No.
okay.
Could you change those out? Like if you wanted it to be in a different direction,
I don't think so. Once they went in, and that's that's the way it was. And
redo the whole pool.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, but that was the birth of it. But then we kind of, caretaker was there at one time, but my dad's vision came really from the in floor when he was out. I think in the lawn, he saw a sprinkler head pop up and kind of ratchet around like this. And actually, one of our first one, or actually our second one was an in-floor made by Toro sprinkler heads.
Oh, wow.
They were actually Toro heads modified for the bottom of the swimming pool. And where they're different, where that was different from what goes on now, they would pop up and they would stay up and rotate 360 while they were up. Where now of course they pop up and they stay and they drop back down. But the issue with that was that there was so many fine little gears in those little Toro heads that the dirt would get caught. It didn't perform very well. But that was his dream, or his vision, was seeing that in a sprinkler head, and went to Toro and made a deal with them, and we were putting those in. And then was born the PV3. And those were all made by hand at that time.
How quick did your competitors jump on that boat when you guys had your? Because I imagine if you installed it in his pool, how soon after were you selling it? Was it pretty close proximity?
I would say the first ones were put in the early 70s.
Okay.
Yeah, and of course, caretaker was there very, very shortly after that. Les Matthews, who's also a great innovator in that space, the in-floor space. Les Matthews, and then the caretaker came along, and then of course, it just grew from there.
How it feels great and makes me proud to think they were all born here, right?
All of them.
Yeah, that's amazing.
All of them.
It's right in our market, in our backyard.
Yeah, A&A and caretaker and Paramount's products. And
Never thought about that. That's really cool.
Yeah, all born right here. Yeah.
So I heard you talk about it on another interview, but why your dad, I'm sure, was busy enough with building pools and doing everything with Paddock. Like, why start an in-floor cleaning company? Like, that's a whole other headache. Like, why even do it?
Well, he was just a great entrepreneur, to be honest with you, and a visionary, and always would look for opportunities of growth and where the market was where it was going. And he just saw that as a better way to clean a swimming pool rather than having hoses in the pool. Remember the old days, there was actually hoses that come out.
Whips.
Yeah, the whips. And actually we had ones that retracted into the wall. I don't know if you knew that. They would come up and they would pull back into the wall, and then they would come back out with water pressure. So there was somewhat invisible, but he just saw a better way to clean a pool rather than having the Arneson pool sweep, which was around back then, and all the other add-on cleaners. And he just, he was always looking ways to grow the business and grow, and be an innovator and have a differentiation in what we did at Paddock and what the industry needed. So that's why he started the in-floor and a lot of other products as well.
I bet it'd be easier to forecast sales on that than build the pools, because I feel like you never know how well, how many pools you're going to sell in a year. You could do 1,000 one year and, 20 the next. But if you have an in-floor cleaning system, you can go worldwide if you want to and sell everywhere. Was that ever like a thought that, if, this doesn't work out, at least we have, another business?
I don't know. I don't think it was just if it didn't work out. It was always, we were always laser focused on pools. And you have to remember, at one time, Paddock was building on an annual basis 2,500 pools annually.
Crazy.
Dug, plumbed, steeled. So no, I just think it was just another avenue of revenue and growth in having a vision. And that's what entrepreneurs do. They're always looking for ways to better improve the industry that they're in, or even outside the industry. And there's this, Steve Jobs, who I'm talk about books a little later on if you want to, about things that I read. But in his bio, he talks about, it's always not about innovating, it's about leapfrogging. If you find something that's really good, just leapfrog it and do it better than what's going on. And I always think that's the way we did it when I kind of took Paramount over in 1998. When kind of I decided that after hiring a couple of GMs that they didn't see my vision of what I thought Paramount could do, and that's what we were really about, is being innovative and also being more than just an infloor, just being more than just a plastic company. And I think that's what a lot of manufacturers miss today, that, they can sell a pump and filter. I think you got to be more to that, to your pool builders and to your dealers today, better business practices and helping them be better in their business. And I think that's what separated Paramount when I had it from all the other manufacturers.
I think, me personally, since we're talking about it, I think the education, I wish that would be taken more seriously with all manufacturers, because it seems like they don't have a problem with coming up with new ideas and manufacturing new products, but getting the videos out there, maybe even a podcast, or just better education on how to install this for the people in the trades doing that stuff. I don't think that is. I feel like that can be a lot better. What do you think?
I think so. I think it's lacking big time. I think they just leave it to the pool builder to figure it out too many times. But also, I think that manufacturers can do a better job of helping pool builders be better business people in everything that they do. And I think that's, again, as I said, that's what Paramount was really all about. Is I'm big on relationships. I think business goes two ways. It's transactional or it's relationship. And anybody can be a transactional business. But when you build a business, it's built on relationships, sincere, genuine relationships, and offering them more than just in-floor or a pump and a motor and a heater, offering them things that can help them be better business people and just better human beings, to be quite honest. We did a lot of things at Paramount, is just helping them just be better in life. And I think that's what separated us so much at Paramount from all the other manufacturers out there. Even though Paramount has and still does, by the way, the very best products out there. But the fact of it is, you have to be more than that, I think, today, to help them be better at what they do.
My strongest business relationships are guys that I have personal relationships with. It's so true. You will bend over backwards for people. And we had a guest on recently, Dan Waters of Create Environments, and he said the same thing. It's relationships in business are key. And it's so true, because the guys who are good at that, they are the most successful.
Yeah, and people, you can talk it, but you got to talk it and you got to walk it. And you're right. It's the ones with your personal relationships, because then it becomes more than just business. It becomes more than that transactional. It becomes an important part of your business, and you're an important part to them, and it's got to work both ways, by the way. But yeah, absolutely.
And it feels great if you have a personal relationship with somebody and you get along great and you have things in common and you're doing business. That's such a great combination.
Yeah, makes it fun, right?
Absolutely,
it makes it fun. Yeah,
it really does.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I've said it a couple of times, but there was a couple key people when we had a service business that had a relationship with us. Mark Hernandez with SCP at that time. I mean, he clinged on to us and he showed us how to install lights and pumps and our first automation board. And it was, because of that relationship that we did pretty much everything he said to do. I mean, he wasn't like this real pushy salesperson. He was just like, if I show you and you know how to do the thing, you're just going to sell it. You're going to want to, because you feel confident in installing this product. And that's exactly what we did.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
So talking about leadership, and, helping businesses, I know there's a program, I guess you could call it a program called PACE, that you founded PACE. Is that right?
Yeah. Paramount did back, I think in 1999 was our first meeting. Paramount Advisory Committee Enterprise is what it stands for. And we would invite only pool builders from all over the country. And it didn't matter what size, you could build 5 pools or, 150 pools. We started something, and really what it was back in the day in 1999, when my vision was, quite honestly, was to be able to help pool builders be better at what they do. We didn't talk about any better products, and we pretty much did a Paddock brain dump, to be honest with you. We talked about our marketing side, our finance side, our accounting side, our construction side. And people was, at that time, they didn't know too much about me, because I really wasn't involved with Paramount too much at the time, was busy running Paddock. And they wondered, what's this guy inviting us out here for? What's his motive? But it was a complete Paddock dump, taking our 45 years history and helping them in all aspects. Again, marketing, construction, finance, all areas of sales, whatever it happens to be. I just did a brain dump, and it really that's how it started. And I ran it for 23 years before we sold the business. Yeah,
So it went with Paramount.
went with Paramount.
They still operate, still run the pace.
Yeah, it's best to my knowledge. Yeah, they still have the pace meetings, and they still offering that. Yeah.
So is there any like hands-on pool training like with Paramount stuff? Or is it just kind of like more business?
You talk the pace
Pace of it,
meetings.
yeah.
Well, we would invite sponsoring vendors like Structured Studios, which I want to talk about in a minute. But Structured Studios, Pentair, Pebble Tech, Wet Edge. We had a variety, and we would have during breaks we'd have round tables, so people could go visit and talk about their product and understand about it. They had questions about it, but mostly it wasn't about product as much as about better business practices. That's really what it was. All from succession planning to fraud to liability in a business. We were helping them understand things that might help them in their business be better at what they do. That's really how PACE was. It wasn't designed around about product as much as business.
I love that. I went to a symposium probably 5 years ago. It was like, I don't know how many they did, and they don't do them anymore, but Fluidra did one in San Diego, and it wasn't pool related. It was just they had a motivational speaker, and they had different business classes and a lot of networking, good food, really cool hotel, and it was probably to this day my favorite event. I mean, I've never been to a PACE event, but it kind of sounds similar to that. And I'm like, dude, we need more of that because those were really cool.
Yeah. Well, we think ours was very unique because we'd have speakers too. We'd always bring in a keynote speaker, 2 or 3 speakers, whether it be leadership or sales training or something to help motivate the group. And then we'd also have pool builders come up and speak, because the pool builders also like to hear from other pool builders. We had one called about the successes and the failures. What made you successful? What was some of your failures? And I will tell you that was probably one of the most important part of it, because they want to hear from each other, because who knows better than the pool builder. So we had speakers, we had round tables, we would have builders speak with each other. And you're right, it becomes a different form than going to a seminar talking about their products. I mean, you can do that anytime.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, that's what helps build relationships, to be honest with you. Sincere, genuine relationships.
Going back to, again, Paddock and Paramount days when you're at the helm of those businesses, I want to talk a little bit about the innovations and changes you made. One of my favorite books is Who Moved My Cheese? That book, I think about it all the time in business. Have you read that book? It's very short.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Okay.
A long time ago.
It just tells you, always have your eye on where the cheese is moving in the maze. You need to make course changes in business to stay, in the newest trends, stay relevant, stay successful. How much do you think you are making big changes in business? Because that's a long time to run a business. You certainly can't do it the same way from day one through the end and be successful, I don't think. How important was it to make changes? And maybe what were some of the changes that you saw happen during your tenure?
Well, I think that it's always important to be looking for better ways and different ways and pivoting at times of need, because, the headwinds, sometimes you run into headwinds and sometimes it's tailwinds. So I think you always got to be nimble and be able to pivot. And I think we did that fairly well, because as you said, having an enduring business for as long as Paddock was around, when the Ghiz family had anyway, from 1958, we sold it in 2005. That's a long time to have a business, and a successful business too. So I just think that you count on your people to help you and your management staff to be able to see what the headwinds are and or the tailwinds that you're running into, and you got to make moves. You got to be nimble. You got to make strategic moves that are important. I can't speak of any major one, even though we ran into in my history, I think I had maybe 4 recessions,
Yeah.
and you have to be nimble, and you have to make moves that are important. But strategically, you have to do that. Sometimes you'd make some quick decisions that aren't always good. I'll give you an example. I'm not so sure it's a move, but one that really could have hurt Paddock at one time. And Paddock was had the opportunity of building the pools at the Phoenician.
Mm-hmm.
And those were big back then. The pools at Phoenician was $6 million, and it was a kind of a cost plus job. And I remember laying in bed, and I think it was 1989, and they owed us a lot of money at that time. And things were getting kind of rough. If you remember, in the early 90s, that's when the recession started, and the RTC took over Charles Keating's businesses, and I'm laying in bed, and at that time, and we had a lot of money owed us. Oh my gosh, everything was shut off. and I tell you, talk about being nimble and quick and what to do. I tell you what I did. I said to myself, what do I have to do to get this money? Because listen, at that time, that's a lot of money, and it could have done some damage to Paddock. So my first move was to say, if I called the RTC and I met with them sooner than later, I would probably have a better chance of getting money out of them, or some portion of that money. And I don't know what drove me to that, but I got up, and about 2 weeks after that, they took it over. I called them and got a meeting with them, went downtown, had a meeting with them, and got about 90 cents on the dollar.
Wow.
But it was the move. It was a quick move on a gut decision that I had to make at that time, because if we hadn't got our money, I'm not sure how things would have turned out, to be honest with you. But
how did that unfold? Did they finish the projects with you guys?
They had finished the projects. Yeah, we got to finish it. And well, at that time, pretty much it was almost all done.
Oh, okay.
They owed us the retention money, which was, big money at that time.
Right.
And we went and negotiated, got 90 cents on the dollar at that time. So, yeah.
That would be
just a gut feeling. So yeah, you just have to be. And I think business plans are always important too. I think you put them, but I think people rely on those too much, because, you can we used to put 5-year plans together. I don't think you can do that anymore, because things are changing so quickly. But if you put a 2 or 3 year plan together, but you got to be able to get off track if need be immediately, and follow this kind of your guideline, but be able to find other ways if something comes up and a hurdle comes up.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask and go back a little bit. What do you think about the franchise models for, pool builders, or maybe even if you know anything about service, but, having Paddock and that was, a franchise, like, what do you think about that model?
Well, I think it worked for us really well. I mean, we were pretty much independent from the main Paddock, but my dad, it was a franchise. I know there's very successful franchises out there right now. Premier Pools is one very, very successful program. They've got, I don't know, 3, maybe 100 dealers out there across the country, maybe more. I'm not sure exactly what it is. So I think put together right in offering your dealers what they need to be better business people, I think it works very well. So yeah, I don't, if it's handled right and you got the right name, and, Premier Pools is one of them, as today anyway, has a wonderful name out there, and they got dealers all over the country. They do very well at it.
Yeah, because you're buying a system, right? Like their point of sale, their systems, their processes.
Just like a McDonald's franchise, it's exactly everything. I mean, down to everything, have everything laid out for you, processes, computer, leads, everything. So for the right pool builder, it works very well.
You ever seen The Founder?
Absolutely.
So
McDonald's
good.
is so good.
So good.
So
Yeah.
good.
They did a great job making that movie. I mean, I feel bad for the 2 founders, but it's a super good movie.
You hear that all the time though, right?
Yeah.
I love listening to podcasts. I when I work out, and if I'm on the bike for an hour or something, I won't listen to music. I'll pick up a podcast on whether it's whatever it happens to be. How I Built This is a big one I'd like to listen to, on stories and entrepreneurs on how they built their businesses. And there's a common theme with all of it. But there's also a letter out there. Jeff Bezos has one called Day One. And if you had a chance to read his letter, Day One, it's funny. I mottoed myself after that, actually way back in the day. But Day One is really so true when you first start your business. And Justin, you remember probably when you first started your business. I mean, how everything was forget policies and procedures to take care of the customer, be customer centric, be laser focused, get it done. And if you have that same feeling, not on day 2 and day 3 and day 4, actually around Paddock, around Paramount, I'd walk around the building, because that's my personality. So what day is it? And everyone would say, Day One Buzz, because that's the way, because you're so important in needing that client and that income coming in, you're just about doing anything. And you don't let policies and procedures get in the way of people making decisions, or, your team members making decisions for customers. Let them make that decision right for the customer. So that's kind of if you haven't read that, get online, get the Day One letter that he put out. It's really, really built really well for being customer centric in your business. Not in day one, but in every day.
You know what I think they need to teach? I don't know if this is a thing, but they need to teach like how to deal with like the fatigues of being a business owner, because when I hear stuff like that, I wish every day I could focus for an hour and like reset myself, realign myself. But what I find is, or at least maybe in the size business I have, I become fatigued. You get so focused on solving problems that you don't ever get a chance to reflect on what is my vision. I mean, I certainly do, but not as frequently as I'd like. I
Do you
feel
think it's because like in business, you get taught how to do business in the wrong order, where it's like you need to go get sales and then you get bombarded with work
Mhm.
before you've had time to figure out your financials and to figure out how to build SOPs and how things are going to work in your warehouse and your office. Like you just got all this work. So it's like, go, 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 whatever it takes, get the job done. But you're forgetting about the culture. You're forgetting how to do all these other things. Cause I know I've been there where it's like, dude, you just like, dude, no matter what, we need money coming in. So you got to go do whatever it takes. And before you know it, it's like, shit, dude, like we're drowning here. You know what I mean? And it's hard you got to backpedal quite a bit.
Just working on your business instead of in your business, or
There
vice
you
versa. And my best advice for entrepreneurs or owners is to take that first time when you come in, because you're right, it's all about putting out the fire and or getting the in, generating the revenue. But my best advice to you, Justin, or any entrepreneur, is take that first 15-20 minutes a day, shut your door, and meditate a little bit, actually, quite honestly, and focus on the day. Get clarity. That's what I would do. That's not the first thing I do. I always walk through the warehouse, through the building, and greet everybody. Then I go in the door and I shut the door. Not a phone call, not my phone, nothing. And I just do a little meditating, quite honestly. And then I would think about the day. What do I got to do? What do I got to accomplish? And a calmness comes over you, a clarity comes over you. So if you can find time to do that, that's all at 10 or 15 minutes out of the day before the day starts. So I know what happens. Sometimes you come in, it's like getting on a treadmill, right? And it doesn't stop. But you as a leader have got to find that time, shut that door, and no one bothers you. No one, except family, maybe.
I like that.
Yeah.
Have you read Eat the Frog?
Mm-mm.
No.
Is that the one where you eat the biggest frog first?
Yeah.
Yeah. My father used to always say, if you had 3 bullfrogs and those 3 bullfrogs represent your day, you eat the biggest one first, meaning then easy to
Yeah.
eat.
Yeah.
Even though it's kind of crazy thinking about, some people like you, where it's like, there's a lot of,
I just eat a lot
there's
of
there's a lot
bullfrogs.
of big frogs in the day that you gotta, there's not just one big thing that,
Hey, man, all my frogs are big, man.
yeah. But what the book
Well-
pretty much talks about is, you have all these things that you have to do, but what is like getting the thing that you least want to do, the most important thing out of the way first. Like that's the first thing, because that's going to kind of set the pace for the rest of your day, is like eating that thing, that email that you really don't want to send, or just, taking the plunge on something, just do it, get it done, and move on through the rest of the
Yeah.
checklist, I guess.
Yeah. The other advice I can give you too, and I know it's easier than said than done, but is surrounding yourself with rainmakers. At the end of the day, your business is built on people. It really isn't us. Really, at the end of the day, it's the people in your business. And so many people will, well, I'll take that gal or guy just because I always say surround yourself by 10s, because I believe you're a 10. And I believe I'm a 10. If you surround yourself by 10s, they're rainmakers. They know what to do. They know how to handle the customers. And so really any business, I believe, starts with the people that surround yourself. It's all about the people. And when you do that, and have the right people around you, your day will become much easier. And you can depend on them to get the job done.
What was the first product you made after kind of buying out some of your family in Paramount? Like, what was like the first thing you rolled out after that? Because I have to imagine it's kind of, you were talking about Steve Jobs and how excited he was in bringing the computer to that trade show way back, whenever that was. You remember what that first product was?
Well, we could have been a different version of an in floor, because we had, family of 5 or 6. We had enough for fiberglass, vinyl, 3 different concrete ones. We went into the sanitation business, which I thought was a game changer for us on the ozone side. The drain side, we modified all of our drains. SDX is one of them, which is still real popular today, and the MDX. Skimmers was one. Venturi skimmers was another one we invented. Lighting, we brought lighting out. We just hit an array of different products. We bought out an ultra UV company, which I at one time I had a vision that that's where the sanitation's going, is a UV side, and then of course combining UV and ozone that's really the best way to purify water. Gosh, what else did we bring?
And
out?
what year was some of this stuff?
Oh gosh,
I feel like the UVs were like what, 2015. I feel like that was
UV
pretty
was-
recent.
Yeah, ozone was much sooner than that. UV, pardon me, ozone was probably maybe 2001,
Mhm.
2001, 2002 when we brought out Clear 03, which we thought was a game changer and still is one of their, I believe, one of their biggest selling products as it relates to sanitation. Just an array of different products we would bring out. Yeah.
What helped
Water
you?
levelers was another one that came later on down the line. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the parallel.
Paralevel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Paraskim, Paralevel. Yeah.
When I finally took the time to figure out how that thing worked when I first saw it, I was like, dude, this shit is awesome.
Yeah.
I was to mess with
It's
that
a
little flipper
feature-packed little product.
foot. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a John Gettle. That's a John Gettle invention. To be honest with you, again, we built, so many water levelers out there were for toilet bowls and whatnot. He designed that specifically for swimming pools. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, having all those innovations, patents, different things like that, like how you make those types of decisions, because that's got to be pretty difficult from like a manufacturer, because you don't really know what the market's going to do, and you got to develop it, mass produce it, wherever that's going to be done, package it. What's the packaging going to look like? I'm sure the checklist, there's a million things on there on what you have to do. Like, how do you know when to pull the trigger on a product? Like, what are you looking at to set one of those products free?
Well, I think part of it is I've been the team we had at Paramount too, been in the business a long time. Lou Prioresci, 30 years in the business, and Bill Burt, and so many of us. So we knew what the market wanted. But I think the first thing you do is there a need? You find out the need, and let's say using water level, we believe there was, because we believe, again, all of them were just basically toilet bowl cleaners. Our Total Boy floats, and there's a need. And then you do a market study. We know that figured out how many, water levelers are sold across the world. And that's what we had. We had an international business, and you put a pro forma together and decided, does it make sense to pull the trigger? Because molding is not cheap. It's inexpensive to mold product today. But you just put all that together. And again, we gut feeling, a lot of my businesses run on a gut, knowing what I think the market needs. But you also have to put together, what's the payback? You try to look for, a year and a half, 2-year payback of a product like that. And that's the way we make decisions. And is the product needed? And again, we always don't vet new things like the skimmer we did, the Venturi skimmer. We took what was out there and we leapfrogged all the competition when we did it. We lined them all up, and how do we do it better? How do we do it better for the pool builder? And that's the way we make decisions, and knowing the need that the industry is looking for. Pretty easy for us.
Did you ever ask the builders questions on what wasn't working, what was working, and just so you have this database of, that information? I'm sure that's important.
It is important, and we did. I give you an idea when we did the MDX drain way back when. God, that's probably 15 years old now. We brought in builders from all over the country, and had a 2 days, talking about the product before we pulled the trigger on molding, and got their input on it. And I'll tell you something else. There's been other products that actually Justin helped us on a drain that never made it to market. Hayward decided not to bring it to market, but yeah, we would lean on just not builders. We lean on subcontractors, and actually people doing the work. But also, you have to know sometimes that God, I'm trying to paraphrase it into what Steve Jobs would say, or what he did say. Sometimes they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what really is needed, and sometimes you just have to go with that. That makes any sense?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who thought about phones and iPads and all that stuff? I mean, he knew what we wanted before we knew what we wanted. And I think a lot of times that's what you have to go with. You hear it, you listen to it, and you put all that together, and then you got to make that decision to go. And we were most successful with most of all of our products at Paramount.
Well, if you make a good product, I mean, like Steve Jobs, I mean, he kind of like set the tone. He set the trend. He put it out there and people just clinged on to whatever he was doing.
We
You know,
didn't know-
sometimes people don't even know what they want until you put it out there.
That's exactly right. And that's kind of what that's a better way to say it than I said. That's exactly, sometimes you just got to go with that because they don't know. They don't know. But
Well,
that's right.
That was a good quote. I was just thinking the only one I know by Steve Jobs, which is just think different, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah.
The two-worder.
Yeah.
How about who did you look up to when you were coming up through the industry? Were there, I know you mentioned your father was a mentor. Was there anyone else you looked up to or maybe mentored behind?
Oh, John Gettle was one that I always looked up to and leaned on quite a bit in the business.
Why is that? I mean, what else was he doing like at that time?
John is a very unique individual. John is not only a brilliant creator, engineer, but mostly a creator. He could create things. He was a really smart business guy and helped. He was self-taught on the computer side. We brought in way back in the day, IBM 32, if you remember that. I probably don't remember that, but that goes way back. He self-taught himself on that. So he was one that I would lean on a lot on decisions, along with, of course, my brothers as well. John just had a sense of business along with being a creator of product. It wasn't just that. The other person I think that I leaned on a lot and mentored me was Vance Gillette. I don't know if you know who Vance Gillette is. We was with the Jandy business way back in the day. In fact, I tell people this, when I first took over Paramount in 1998, I said, we're going to change it down. I modeled myself after what Jandy did because Jandy was so focused on two things, not as much on even on quality of product, on being customer centric and employee centric. And I just said, this is what we have to be. We have to be completely laser and hyper focused on that. So Vance was one that I looked up to quite a bit and leaned on.
So when you say that, like customer centric, employee centric, do like the quality of the products you make follow suit? Because I have to imagine that if those are the two things that you're focused on, then I mean the most important thing to the people using it is the product. Is that usually why that doesn't get included?
I'm not
Just because I hear that quite a bit, and I'm like, if the client is the most important person or the employees, then I'm assuming that just makes your product better because what's most important to the end user is the product.
Yeah. I think I know where you're going, and the answer is yes. You have to have quality products. But I've known businesses that have great products but are not laser focused on customer centric, and guess what? Their products suffer. I've known businesses that have mediocre kind of products, good, but are really laser focused on being a customer centric and employee centric, and are more successful than they are. So yeah, I think you have to have both. It's magic when you have both, and I think Paramount was magic at that time and had both. But I still think the most important thing in a business today is your people, employees first. To be honest with you, a lot of people questioned me when I did that way back at Paddock. We had the what called the TCTE program, Total Commitment to Excellence, and it was really more about the employees. To be honest with you, it starts with the employees, starts with them. Customer comes second. To be honest with you, well, you're crazy, Buzz. What do you mean customer? No, start with the employees. So I still think you obviously have to build a great product or great service and have great products. But if you're not customer laser focused on your customer, that's by far the most important thing. It's wowing your customer. It's that memorable experience that you create. It doesn't really matter too if you're plumbing in the backyard or you're stealing or dealing directly with the customer. It's that creating a memorable experience for your client. I mean,
Hopefully positive.
Pardon me?
Hopefully a positive, memorable experience.
Hopefully, yeah. Yeah, you're right. That's the wow. Yeah, it could be wow the other way, I guess you're right. But yeah, but that was a direction. But just to think about when you go out and to dinner somewhere and you had a mediocre time and you tell your friend, it was okay, it was all right. Well, or you walk out and say, oh my God, the portions, the service, and everything was excellent. That's the experience that we wanted at Paddock. To be honest with you, we had a mantra at Paramount too, and that's the culture. Talking about earlier about why it's important to have a culture in a business or a personality in a business. That's why it's still memorable today. He's still talking about TCT, and so many businesses that don't have a culture suffer suffer big time, not only from the customer, but internal. People want to follow a culture.
Is that why you guys did too what was the gardens or didn't you
Garden
have
center?
the facility with all the pools on it?
A garden town.
Garden Town.
Yeah, that was my dad's vision, though. He built that. That was finished in 1963. There was 8 or 9 swimming pools out front. Yeah, I mean, there's an article, I still have it in my file, about that George Ghiz is crazy. He'll go broke in 2 years. He doesn't know what he's doing in this industry. But he had such a vision. You almost like a car lot, to be honest with you. That's really where I think he's probably his mind was. When you go to a car lot, you go and you can, open the door, get in a car. Well, he wanted people to see all sorts of shapes and styles of pools. And I mean, we would have
Genius.
it was genius. It really was for that long ago. I'm glad you used that word, because I didn't want to say that, but my dad was a marketing genius, and started actually in the grocery business, to be honest with you, not even in the pool business.
What was he doing in the grocery business?
He had actually it was the produce business first, way back in the day. He and his brother had the largest independent repackaging company in it was called, oh gosh, see that? Forgot what it was called, what their business was called. I'll come in a minute. But then he went into the grocery business here in town called Farm Fresh. He had 3 or 4 markets right here in Arizona. Do you remember the Smitty's markets? You remember how big they were? That many years ago, he had those biggest stores in Arizona called Farm Fresh Markets.
Wow.
But then he migrated and he sold that, and then he decided that it's hot here. Let's get the next business, and then he went into the pool business.
One thing I want to add really quick to back up a little bit here. Do you think it's strange now that, I started in the industry around 2000, and I came up plumbing for Shasta and Presidential and all that stuff. And Presidential had a pool display, just like you guys did, and Shasta did on 16th Street.
Yeah.
Do you think it's weird now that all the new pool companies that are maybe coming up, they're not following that same pattern? Like it almost feels to me like it's not as grand anymore. Do you have that experience at all, or what do you say about how come these other companies aren't doing that anymore?
I maybe it's a matter of cost, and land, and being able to build swimming pools and having enough acreage to do that. Maybe it's things have changed with Structure Studios, who I'm a big advocate of. I think, quite honestly, I think Noah and Structure Studios, it was the biggest impact on our industries had in years, to be honest with you. What he's done changed the landscape of maybe you don't need all that stuff anymore. Maybe the 3D stuff that Structure Studios does is kind of, I don't need to put 6 pools out there or 3 pools out there. Maybe that's what it is. So I think it's just a myriad of different things that they're not doing it. I still probably, if I were to start, I would probably still have a couple out there, because Garden Town, the other thing, neat thing about Garden Town was a destination. We'd have weddings out there. My dad would have, I remember he had Miss Arizona contest out there. We would have CPR classes out there. We offered it to the YMCA for swim lessons all summer long. There was swim lessons going out there. So if you use it right, rather than just sell pools, even though it sold pools, if you know what I mean, it's
a great way to bring people to.
That's exactly right. It's a byproduct basically of it. But so if you use it right, but I think that probably that today all the social media and what Structure Studios did, and
you're right. 3D, I feel like, has totally changed the game.
I remember seeing his ad. He was on the cover of Pool and Spa magazine. I can't even remember how long ago. And I saw that and I said, oh my gosh, I got him on the, matter of fact, he came to a PACE meeting and I said, you got to fly out here. You got to talk to my dealers about this. This is the next thing. And I call him Boy Wonder. He's just got a tremendous vision of what he does. And he's literally changed the way people sell pools today. And as a matter of fact, when we got it at Paddock toward the end, it was really toward the end when I was there, the average price would go from X to Y just because they can visualize. Most people can't visualize what that backyard's going to look like. And what he did, he took it to Technicolor and took it to live. So I'm still in awe of what he does out there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Noah's legit. Very.
Yeah, and he keeps innovating too. Keeps innovating, creating new things for pool builders. But I can't even think of the last thing I thought that really changed the industry. Variable speed pumps. Okay, variable speed. No, this guy right here, this guy changed the world, changed the pool world.
And you said social media. I think that's where that's why people don't do that too, because now we're pulling, stuff from structure studios, into 30-second clips for Instagram and Pinterest. I see a lot of augmented reality stuff and different things in structure studios on Pinterest, like tons of stuff on Pinterest. But, when you have that, people probably don't want to buy. How many acres, was the gardens?
But you can't have a Miss Arizona contest.
Shit, if it were me, I could do that.
And I'm going to call you guys for the next time we do one.
I'll judge.
I'd much rather have a lot of pools.
No, I thought about if I were to do it all over again, I would probably have like a room about this size, and with big, comfortable, theater chairs in there, and almost do it where you'd put the goggles on and the
VR.
VR.
Yes.
I think, and I know maybe structured, I'm sure he's working on or doing something, but I think if someone can flip those on and sit there and visualize that, and because you feel, you've had them on before. I mean, you guys, right? I mean, it's like, wow, you're right there. You're immersed in it. Right. You're just totally immersed in it. And I think that would be one thing I would do marketing wise, different what's going on today. Bring them to a really nice place, sit down and put them on and let them feel immersed in that swimming pool.
Or incorporate it with the movie theater. It's like, before you go into the movie, check this out.
Yeah.
Sit down, water, fire feature, heat you up.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Like, where do I sign?
Yeah.
Put this in my backyard.
Well, there you go. That's the.
I think it would be way cooler now. Like if you had, however many acres of land and you built pools, because there's so many different surfaces, and people are doing a lot more acrylic and all the different features and furniture and different things like that. Man, you can make that thing out of control. Really cool to look at.
And that's what he did. Yeah, it was 10 acres actually. We were sitting on 10 acres at one time. Yeah.
Where was that at?
65th Street in Thomas, 6525 East Thomas Road.
Damn, 10 acres. That's huge.
Yeah, he had quite a vision for that many years ago.
Yeah. No drones around back then, probably. So no aerial shots.
No, Indian School Road was dirt road.
Wow.
Yeah, they had horse hitches. I remember.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah.
So Buzz, you're retired now. How's that going?
You have to keep saying that, right?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't feel like it. I guess just observing from the outside, you're super active, and I know your name comes up a lot. But what are you doing with all your time?
I'm helping my two sons in their business, and I'm doing some and having a lot of fun doing that, and watching them become very successful in what they're doing. I'm doing some consulting with pool builders across the country. I've done several of that. I'm doing some speaking engagements. I'm staying involved. I still love the industry. I don't ever think I will ever completely get out of it, because I want to be able to give back, and that's what I want to do, and that's what I'm doing. And then outside of that, I'm doing some development, some development of some real estate projects, which I've always enjoyed real estate. I've been doing that a long time.
Will we ever see the Buzz Ghiz back in the pool game, or what do you think?
I don't know. You never know. You never know. Yeah. I'll never leave it. I love it. I was telling you guys earlier that, people would ask me about, did I love what I did? And my standard answer is I would tap dance to work. I would leave on a Friday afternoon, probably one of the last ones out of the building, and couldn't wait for Monday. My wife and I would have a joke. We've been, married for 43 years, so a long, long time, been together probably 47 years. And I said, you do know, honey, I do have a mistress, right? And her name is Paramount, just so you know. And if you ever want to know where I'm at, that's where I'm at. So, yeah. I just think that, passion is used, maybe overused to a certain degree. But, again, quoting Steve Jobs, I'm just going to quote him, you love what you do and do what you love. And when you can find that magic, when you can find that, and I always tell young people that, and you always don't get there the first stepping stone, maybe not the second step, maybe not the third, but eventually find something that you love to do and do what you love. And I will tell you, it'll change your life. And not only change your life, whether you're an entrepreneur or working for someone, it'll change their lives as well. So I was very fortunate and blessed to just always have that, and, full of energy as well, positive energy. Cause I don't, I always say, hang around people like people with positive energy, because the negative ones will sap it from you. So
I've never heard of you being upset ever. I've never not seen you happy, and I've never heard anybody say anything bad about you either. So you've been successful. Maybe I haven't talked to the right people.
Yeah. Let me give you a couple of names. I'll let you know.
Just say, what do you think about the current state of the pool industry?
As it relates to what's going on economically in
Yeah.
economic, I think it's going to be tough for a while. There's no question about it. I mean, you can't have inflation the way it is. You can't have interest rates, even though there's still. I mean, listen, when I bought my first house, I think it was 16%, and I thought I hit the lottery because I just got approved, without having my dad or anybody co-sign. Oh my gosh! So I mean, it's still at 6-7%. It's still low, but for their mindset, still thinking 2 and 3%. So I think as long as interest rates stay the way they are, I think inflation, the cost of things is needs to get into. It's gonna, pools is somewhat of a luxury, still a luxury item. I mean, you don't need a swimming pool, so you need food, you need gas, you need shelter, you need things. So it's going to be tough for a while, but it'll come back. There's no question about it. When things settle down, I mean, people still, especially with what COVID did to, having a backyard environment, having some place for, you to go to again. And God forbid we ever see anything like that again. I think people have that in their back of their mind. And what better place? Listen, pools, it's a wonderful place to have your family and picnics. And, we always would rather have the kids at our house at the swimming pool than somewhere else, because what's going on. So it's still going to be good, but it's going to be tough. I believe, until probably things settle down. And now you got the banking issue going on right now. I think probably 23, 24 is going to be tough. Or I say tough, maybe years like 2018 or 19, which weren't all bad, by the way.
Right.
But it's not gonna be like it was for a while. It's gonna take some time. But that said, I always say these are opportunities to gain market share in the business. So if you do the right things, and talk about some of the things we talked about earlier, being laser focused on your customer, laser focused on the right people in your business, you'll do fine. You derail from that, well, things could change.
That's what I was just going to ask. Like, do you have a message for, the builders out there across the country listening to this? Like, what, should they be paying attention to? Should they, lay off the marketing? Should they be doing this? But you're saying, like, just keep, going even harder.
I would say, there's an old saying that, when times are tough, market even more,
Yeah.
and I would say you have to be careful. You want to watch your budgets, and always important. I think my message to the pool builder is to stay laser and hyper focused on your staff and your customer. Now I've said that quite a bit, but I'm such a big advocate on that. Don't pull marketing away. Market smart, market wise, and stay positive, and you'll do fine, and you'll get your share, hopefully, more than your share of the market if you do the right things, because most of them aren't going to do it. And be very cautious of your cost today. I think that a lot of pool builders got hurt during that COVID time when they would sell something, and that you're adjusting your prices, and it wasn't you're doing. Your prices were going up every month or every week. I don't know what they were going. Now, how you control that? I consulted a lot of builders on that, is having escalation clauses in your contract. You have to. You have to. Now, maybe things have settled down now a little bit. I'm not sure. I'm not that close to it, but just stay focused, stay laser focused on your customer and doing the right. You know what? My dad, one thing would always say: always do the right thing. Always do the right thing in life. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it hurts the wallet, or sometimes it hurts. But if you always do make the right decisions for the right reasons, you'll be fine.
Love it.
That's my mantra as well.
Yeah, and again, it hurts sometimes. I can give you an experience when we had it at Paramount. Speaking of the Ultra UV, when we first got it, I don't know if you remember that.
It was Trident, and
Trident.
Yeah, they were prone to fire.
Yeah, I will tell you. Talk about one of the things that kept me up in business was we bought the Trident product out of California because we knew that UV was where the market was going as it related to sanitation. And quite honestly, I'll take all the blame for it. I was something new, and I hadn't bought any companies, and I don't know, last time I acquired one, so we just quickly acquired it. Well, we got them. They were put out across the country, and they were sparking fires. We even had some minor house fires go on, and we had to pull them off. And what's that agency that controls consumer product industry? Had a recall on some of them, not on ours. But by doing the right thing, an example was this: the right thing. We could have done a consumer product had a fix, was just sending out some rewire to the client and let them do it. And I said, no. I said, pull them all back. Pull them all back. We're going to fix them. We're going to send them all brand new ones out. And hundreds of thousands of dollars later, and I didn't care because I knew the right thing to do. I said, what I want, I always say to myself, what would I want would I really want a wiring to come to my house? And do I really want to be doing that? I said, no. So we pulled them all back, and we ended up, once they got them fixed anyway, figured out what it was, we built all brand new ones and sent them out and paid for the labor to put them in. Doing the right thing.
I remember that.
Yeah. And I'm just telling you, man, and people thought I was crazy, but I said, no, I'm not going to do that to my clients. I'm not going to do that.
Was it worth it?
Absolutely, positively.
Probably easier to sleep at night for sure.
Yeah, because I wasn't sleeping for the longest time because it took a very long time to figure that out.
Buzz, do you have any books you would recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, I'm a big book reader and a big podcast listener too, and listen to all sorts of things. But I think that the 3 or 4 books that I really like that I think you should read, and there's a lot of them, by the way. But I know I've been talking about Steve Jobs, but his bio, if you haven't read his bio, it's tremendous. And also, when you read these books, I'm always a believer in taking a highlighter and highlight things, because you're going to go back and refer to things. So I love that book. Tony Hsieh, Zappos book called Delivering Happiness. Unbelievable book. Passion, people, purpose is what it's about. And his being laser focused on customer-centric. And a quick story about him. Amazon was going to buy them out, and early on, and it was $1 billion buyout. And Tony said, because and then Amazon wanted to integrate them within their business. And he said, nope, not going to do that. Take your money and go away, because I want to stay separate. I want my own culture. Amazon said, fine, I'll go do what you're doing and do it better. Well, they failed at it. They went back and bought Zappos 2 or 3 years later and let him say, keep your identity, keep your name, keep your culture, keep what you're doing. But his book says that. And I just tell you, it was one of my favorite books. The other great one is Shoe Dog by Nike. I love that book. And again, all these entrepreneurial books, startup has a common theme. It's common theme. And then my other one is Howard Schultz's book, Pour Your Heart Into It, as well. Story about his, and there's many more I could list, go on and on. But as you notice, the theme is I like to listen to other entrepreneurs that started businesses and what they went through, the struggles and their vision and their perseverance of wanting to succeed. And really, that word probably is the most important word in business today, is perseverance. Because Justin, in your own business, right? How many times you could have said, forget it. I'm done. I'm going to go home. I'm going to go work for someone else. But it's your perseverance that got you where you are today in your business. That's where it did. Fighting through it. So those are the few books.
Those are great books. And I'm so excited because Shoe Dog is by far my favorite. I've probably listened to that. I listen to audiobooks, but I probably listened to it 10 times. No joke. Haven't for years. I've been like, I listened to it again, because you always get, depending where you're at in life, if you really like a book, you pull something different from it each time. Like you were just talking about, you had kind of a recall. Everyone sent things back. I'm thinking about when Phil Knight was getting beat up on manufacturing overseas, and he ended up, fixing the factories and making them more safe to work in, and ended up having this patented technology that he gave to all the other shoe manufacturers. And it just became like a staple in the industry, and he gave it away for free. He invested millions in making these factories safer to work in. But it was just the right thing to do. It didn't matter. It's just for the people. It's the right thing to do.
The very best, the thing I liked about that book, the best last chapter of any book I've ever written, that last chapter, how he summed it all up. I still say, I go back and just read that chapter. Unbelievable.
It's so real.
So real.
Because it transitioned from he lost his son, Matthew. He was scuba diving, and it was kind of the rebel son that was very like anti everything dad, because he was away so much and all these different things. But he was in a scuba accident, but it transitioned into kind of, a conclusion of his life. And it just is very real, very real. I was on a journey. It's by far, you'll love it.
The guy that's why the other podcast, like I said, is How I Built This. And you read stories about
Guy Raz.
Yeah, Guy Raz. Unbelievable.
Which one of your favorite episodes?
I think one of the favorite one is the guy from Lululemon.
Oh yeah. I didn't know a lot of that stuff. That dude been through some shit. He said some crazy stuff in his
Yeah,
time.
man. Yeah, but do you also feel like it's just that common theme with those entrepreneurs, right? It's just there's that same basic feeling that you get with each one of them. So, but that kind of keeps my energy going too, is listening to that. And I know probably at an age I should stop thinking about that, but I can't. I don't know. I just got so much energy that I wanna give back.
But I'm sure it's got to be real fun for you because you know how difficult it is, and you've had so much success. But to see these other entrepreneurs like kind of face some of these same decisions,
Yeah.
and what is their decision making? How do they get over these hurdles? That's kind of what we all want to know.
Yeah.
Is like, do you quit or do you get smarter and figure out how to do it?
It's never easy being an entrepreneur. And if it was, more people would do it. It's the ones that pick themselves up and go, instead of hitting the brick wall and falling back, they get up and climb over the wall. And there's very few that do that, by the way. Very few. Most people say, enough's enough. But it's that perseverance that I think that drives us.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite pool that you've ever been to?
Well, the favorite commercial pool, I'll start with that one. I think the Phoenician, when we went out there and swam in the Phoenician pools, I think was. And I think my favorite backyard pool was the one my dad originally did when we moved here in town. It was a 3-leaf clover pool. 3-leaf clover pool, yeah. And in the middle, he had a little island where you could, little island with a 3-leaf clover island. I think that's still my favorite. I still have pictures of that pool. That's my favorite.
Did you help build that one?
No, I don't think I did.
3-leaf clover, never heard of that.
3-leaf clover, yeah.
You have a picture of it?
Yeah, I do at home. Yeah, I should send it to you. Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Love to see that.
Yeah.
Was there any green tile or anything?
No, it's just a 3-leaf clover. Each one had little benches in it. It was pretty forward thinking, actually, to be honest with you. Very big diving pool at the one end, and then shallow end, and a little island in the middle, and yeah, that was.
I'm sure at that time every pool was the same looking.
Well, no, I think the same looking pool was the kidney shape back then.
Yeah,
his wasn't.
Like kidney shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that wasn't one of the template pools that you
Yeah.
could get. Well, thank you so much, Buzz. Really appreciate you taking the time to be on the show with us. This has been a really fun conversation, and we look forward to having you back.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun, and I just enjoyed myself very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Buzz.
Yeah.